Okay, so the most common problem you might run into when you're using SMARTA is that the conveyor belt stops moving and doesn't dispense food when you're doing your trials. So I'm going to walk you through some of the common problems that could cause the conveyor belt not to move and how to fix them. So the first thing you should check is when you're dispensing food, do you hear the motor making a sound? So if you don't hear the motor making a sound when you try to dispense food, that means the message is not getting from the tablet to the motor, and we need to figure out why that is. So the most common reason is, and this is so obvious but you should still check it, that your battery pack is either not charged or it's off. So first, just make sure everything's plugged in properly, double check that your battery pack has a charge, and if this is one of your first times using your SMARTA, make sure you have a battery pack that has the ability to stay on, because it's possible that during the middle of your trial, it hasn't been using power for a while. Some battery packs like to turn off automatically, and we had a problem with that for a while. The one that we use is voltaic, because if you hold the button down, you can make it stay on. So first things first, check that your battery pack is charged and then it's staying on and all plugged in properly. The next thing to check, once you verify that the battery pack is okay, give it another try. Maybe that's it and you're good to go. If it's still not working, then what you want to do is you want to look at this little board here, which is what connects the tablet to the Arduino. And I'm going to dispense some food. Watch the lights on this, and hopefully it comes out on the video. There's a little, I'll do it a couple times. Watch the light in the middle of that little board. It flickers for just a second, and I'll just rewind a couple times. Every time the tablet talks to the Arduino, there's a little flicker there. If you see that, that means that the tablet is talking properly to the Arduino. If you don't see that light, I'll do one more dispense, and we'll get a real close-up shot. Let's see if we can see it. See a little flicker there, okay? If you don't see that flicker, it means they're not communicating properly. And so that is almost always because of one of these wires not working right. So in our experience, this little USB on-the-go wire that plugs into the tablet is usually the first one to go. And it's a rare thing. You could be using this thing for a year, but after plugging and unplugging so many times, eventually this wire will wear out. So on the particular LG tablet that we have, when we plug in our USB on-the-go cable, a box pops up. Let me just plug in here and you should see it. So this says, you plugged in a USB device. This is how we know using our tablet that all the connection has happened properly, and we just hit OK and it actually starts the SMARTA app. Your tablet may or may not have that. It depends on the brand. But if it does, it's a good way to know that it's making the connection properly. Okay. So those are all the things you want to check out if the motor is not making a sound, right? So just to recap, you want to check the battery pack is charged and plugged in. You want to look at the light to see if it's blinking. You want to potentially replace the on-the-go wire and just try replugging things. Those are all the things you want to try. If the motor is making a sound, but the conveyor belt is not moving, there's two things that could potentially cause that. So let's say you hear the motor going, but the cups on your conveyor belt don't actually move. The most common thing, it's going to be difficult to see on this video, but on the other side of this axle there's a wheel that looks just like this with these little spiky cogs. It's in there on the end, you just can't see it beneath the conveyor belt. Let's look at this one. These tend to get worn out. So this axle is hexagonal, and it plugs into the end of the wheel. And there's a little hexagonal kind of interlocking piece in there. But this was just a toy kit that we're using, and it tends to get worn out over time. So if everything is going except for the conveyor belt, you can replace these. Just buy another Tamiya kit and replace these cogged wheel that's on the conveyor belt. If it's still not turning after you do that, the last thing you can do is, I'm just going to rotate here. Let's look at the top of the gearbox. Inside the gearbox, I'm just going to rotate here until I see it. There, okay. Inside the gearbox, there's a little screw. If you rotate it, you can see it just there where I'm pointing to. It's a little tiny screw, and after a long time of using it, that can occasionally work itself loose. And so the Tamiya kit comes with this little L-shaped wrench. Make sure you keep this around, because what you can do is if you rotate it until you see that screw, you can just stick it right in here and tighten it up, like I'm doing right here. See how I have that? And that will help attach the gearbox to the axle securely. So replace the wheel, tighten the screw, and give it another try and you should be good to go. Those are all the reasons we have seen the conveyor belt not work over the years that we've been using SMARTA.